the side of my mouth. And he blesses me a lot of times when I say things. Sometimes I'm just saying it out of just a desire, and he brings it to pass. And I want to share with you one thing that he did this past week. My grandmother's sister was an educator, and my grandmother on my father's side worked for A.G. Gadsden's insurance company. She was his secretary in the Gadsden office. And because my great aunt was an educator, she had a lot of history material. Okay, and one of the things that she left to me was a collection of pictures and paintings of famous African and African Americans. Okay, well, I lost it along the way. She gave it to me when I was 10. Wow. And I lost it along the way. And so I was sitting in the bed, and like I said, I pray about strange things, and I think about strange things. And I was just saying, I said, you know, Yahweh, you remember those pictures that she had given to me? I said, I want those pictures back. I do. And then in the Gospels, Jesus tells a story about a woman who lost something. And, you know, when you lose something, you know, how many of you are not going to go and find other people to say, hey, come help me? And then, how many of you are not going to rejoice when you find it? Well, I had made that statement, and one of my students called me on the phone and said, Dr. White, I'm about to go to the master's program. She was one of my students. When she came into my class, she didn't like to read. She didn't care anything about history. She didn't, you know, just care about anything, you know, for African American. She just wanted to take the class and be over with. Well, when she got finished, of course, she became one of my best students. And she said, well, Dr. White, I want to bless you with something. And I'm not going to be able to use it, you know, right now. So I just want to give it to you because I know that you're going to be of use to it. She gave me 3 of what would be 5 books. Wow. Filled, and it's the Black Heritage Commemorative Society collection, filled with the very things that I had asked Yahweh for. Wow. Let me open this up. Wow. And this was on Tuesday. And I've got several of these portfolios that are packed with biographies on various African Americans. Wow. From law, business, religion, this, that, and the other. And as she was bringing them in, you know, I was like, well, sister, I don't have anywhere to put all of this stuff. What are you doing? And I just thought she was just going to bring me like a stack of books or whatever. And she brought me the very thing that I had asked for. Wow. Now, I reached into the supplements that she brought too, which is all of these here that don't even have a book to go in. They're probably about 100 in these. So anybody that said we don't have a history is crazy. Yes. But this one particular person, this was the first supplement that I pulled out, and it was actually someone that I was doing, trying to do some research on myself, and it's Arnold Joshua Ford. And he was born in Barbados, but his mother and father were from Africa, and he became interested in tracing his African roots through the scriptures and through the Hebrew tradition. He later joined in with Marcus Garvey and became, one of Marcus Garvey's confidants in the Universal Negro Improvement Association. And so that organization was important because it attempted to bring together people of African descent and form a nation of thinkers out of that particular organization. Not only a nation, but an actual physical government as well. And so this brother is very interesting, and he's very influential because up north, he was one of the ones that started the African Hebrew movement in the north. Even when he left and went back to Ethiopia, he had already trained up rabbis after him in Harlem and so forth, to continue that tradition. So I wanted to introduce you to him because he was a businessman as well. And whenever, we have this thing in the West called faith, but whenever, Yahweh speaks to us, there's always an economic side to it. It's never just what you would call religion. You always have a means of taking care of yourself, a means of being productive, a means of prospering and so forth. And these brothers are examples of that. Okay? They're examples of not only faith, but faith in action, belief in action and belief in movement. And there was a politic behind him, just like there's a politic behind us and a politic behind him. We have an agenda that we're actually trying to get done. And so he didn't make he was not ashamed of his belief. And specifically, another thing that I'm doing also is tracing his parents' relationship with Alexander Hamilton. Because Alexander Hamilton was also from the islands, and he also had a very profound identification with the Jews that were on the islands. And so a lot of people don't want to talk about that. A lot of people don't know that, but we know Alexander Hamilton was a brother too. But, you know, they don't talk about that either. But he had a profound influence, you know, or a profound respect for the Jewish people on the islands. And he also identified or had traced or mentioned the fact that the blacks who were enslaved were also descendants of the Hebrew people of the Bible. I want to also mention to you 2 or 3 books that you can get, and they're really essential to it, because as Elder Watson and I talked, you know, I'm concerned with the academic aspect of the relationship between black folk here and the Hebrew people and there's some books that I think are essential, and I don't know if we mentioned them or read them, but in case we haven't, I'll mention them and then I'll sit down. Well, I got one more thing. The Appeal by David Walker. I don't know if you all have ever read that before, David Walker's Appeal, but it's his appeal to the Christian nations of the world. And in it, he outlines the biblical exposition for his assertion that black people in America are related to the suffering people of the scriptures. And he also talks about how black people, and this is something that through research we understand, that black people really in the South did not become Christianized until a few years ago. Christianity in the South is new. And so I always talk and challenge people to identify what it was we were practicing before churches started popping up in the South. They had popped up in the North, and that's where you get the African Methodist Episcopal Church and all those, Richard Allen, Absalom Jones, and Prince Hall. But in the South, you didn't have that. You did not have structured, organized churches amongst the slaves until after the Civil War. And, you know, the church that I pastor is 114 years old, but it's hard to find churches older than that in the South. Most of them 100, maybe 150. There are 2 churches over 200 years old, one in Savannah, one in Mobile. But after that, you know, so what were black people practicing prior to, you know, the coming of the established church? Well, David Walker talks about that. Okay, he identifies the contradictions between Christianity and slavery. And so Christianity amongst the early African American writers was really a bad word. I mean, that word was associated with something negative, not with something positive. When they would mention Christianity, they would mention it really as what it is, Christianity or Antichrist. You know, anti what? Yeah, that's what the word means. I mean, the word Christianity does not mean what we think it means when we say it. It actually, I tell people, what's the difference if the anti is in the front or in the back? It doesn't matter. You know, one negates the other. And so what we were practicing was our spirituality. It was